Hair mistakes that age you faster. Season 2, Episode 1. I am so excited about that. Are you ready to learn about some potential hair mistakes that you could be making right now that are robbing some of that youth from you? And much more importantly, how you can avoid those mistakes pretty easily, actually. Sound good? Okay, well, let's do that then. Okay, in just a second, I'm going to introduce you to Jana. Now, there are a couple mistakes that are happening with Jana's hair currently that are, like I said, robbing some of that youthful look from her. So we're going to walk through exactly what those mistakes are, and much more importantly, how she can avoid those mistakes to get a more youthful look. So with that said, and a view that, well, doesn't suck, why don't we just dive into the mistakes? Sound good? Okay. Okay, now if you are a veteran to this series, then you know what's about to happen. I'm going to read Jana's email, and while I read that email, I'm going to throw up some photos so that you can see Jana's hair. Now, while I'm reading her email so that we can get a better idea of kind of where my suggestions stem from, if you're a veteran of the channel, why don't you go ahead to the comment section and let me know what you think potential mistakes could be happening, and then we'll see how close you are. The email says, "Hello, Justin. I've been viewing your videos for some time now and really appreciate all you have to teach us. Thank you." Well, no, thank you. I appreciate you actually paying attention to these crazy videos. "I am frustrated with my hair. Can't ever seem to get the sides to look right. Too long and it makes it look droopy and like I have dog ears. I had it cut above the ears once and felt it looked too short. Sometimes I'll push the sides behind my ears, which I think opens up my face. I like bangs because I don't like hair hanging in my face. The plunge into my natural gray will be in the next couple of years. I don't spend large amounts of time styling my hair. Right now I just blow dry and then use a flat iron to shape it up." Okay, so now with all that covered, why don't we dive into mistake number 1. Okay, now mistake number 1 is that the top is just a little bit too short. One of the concerns Jana mentions in her email is that the sides feel too long and she feels like they look like dog ears. These layers on top are a bit too short, and when that happens, the shape tends to collapse right here and force that hair below the top to look a little bit fuller. Now, in Jana's case, this is actually a pretty good visual, because if you look at this side of her hair, you can start to see that this area right here is collapsing. But if you look at the other side, it's actually not noticeable at all. That's because the hair at the part line has further to travel from here over to here than it does from here to here. And that means that this side actually is acting as though it's not too short. And this is actually the perfect visual representation of what it looks like when the top layers aren't too short to balance. Now you might be looking at this thinking, but this side actually below that area still looks a little bit bulky. Now why would that be? Well, that'll actually lead us into mistake number 2. Okay, now mistake number 2 is that, well, the sides are just a little bit too long, and actually this side right here looks to be a bit longer than this side, which is why this side still seems to look long and bulky, even though the top isn't technically too short on that side. But either way, since the top is too short, the fastest way to address this mistake is to cut the sides a bit shorter to help the top feel longer by comparison. Now, in Jana's case, her hair is very thick. That can make it really difficult to get it to stay back off of her face like she's wanting it to do. But one quick and simple way to address this is actually texturizing some of that length out. Now, the reason I say texturizing versus just cutting the length out is because if you texturize those ends a bit, it'll help to lighten that area up a little bit more and make it easier for it to stay back without having to cut it so short that it's completely gone. Now, alleviating some of that bulk out of that area and helping us to get this back off of her face will go a long way to help opening her face up, kind of like she mentioned in her email. Okay, now mistake number 3 deals with the very back of her hair. So when we show you this profile picture, like, I literally comment below, I would love to know, where does your eye go in this photo? More than likely, it's traveling directly to the back, to the nape area right here. The interesting thing is that there is a lot of beveling here, and technically the overall shape isn't wrong aside from this little dip from the top being too short. Where the mistake here comes in is that Jana's hair is so thick that this beveling in the back really just needs to be more aggressive to get the job done. Now, not only would I more aggressively bevel this area or layer this, I would also have this get actually a little bit longer. So yes, it should go shorter and longer. What I mean is it should go tighter and then get a little bit longer. Now this would actually serve 2 purposes. One would be that it would create the illusion that that area was actually tapered in even more, but it would also do a great job of actually accentuating Jana's jawline a little bit more and taking some of the bulk out of the cheek area that her current style is creating. Okay, now mistake number 4 is something that I see all the time in the salon, or that I hear all the time in the salon, and that is simply that her styling approach is just kind of wrong. I can't tell you how many times in my decades of doing hair, I have heard people say, I want to get these results, but I want to put this effort into achieving them. Many times, unfortunately, this effort is not going to equal these results. So in Jana's specific case, her hair is very thick, like I mentioned before. And that texture of hair, to get it off of her face, isn't just going to require the appropriate haircut. It may also require a bit more product or a bit of a change or modification in her styling approach. If you remember from her email, she mentioned that she was blow drying and using a little bit of flat iron to finish it off. Now, I'm going to assume, and granted this is an assumption, that she's not utilizing a lot of foundational product prior to blow drying it to get her hair to have the control necessary to actually stay back off her face once she gets it styled back off her face. And this may be where this mishap is happening. Oh, and real quick, if I could just bug you for 1 second, could you watch this real fast? That was not at all the experience I expected. What about you?
It was horrible. It was horrible.
Yes. That is actually the very first few seconds of the brand new video that my wife and I just uploaded, our very first one, to our brand new vlog channel. Yes, I get it. It has nothing to do with hair. Actually, that channel is all about us traveling around and sharing our adventures and travel tips and all the stuff, like the fact that we're moving into a van, me, my wife, and our 2 dogs, to travel around the United States. We're living in a van. Did I tell you that? We're moving out, we're a van. So if you want to follow us along on that little journey where we share all of the fun stuff, there's gonna be a link in the description below so that you can find that particular video that you just watched a part of, as well as you can find our channel. Maybe even subscribe to it. Hang out with us. We would love to have you hang out with us in that community as well as this one. You're welcome wherever you want to be. We'll be there for you. No, really, go check out that video though. I'm actually really excited about it, so thank you for that, and let's dive back into some suggestions. So let's go through the suggestions and show you exactly what these looks would look like on Jana if she actually took my advice. Now, the first mistake was about the top just being a little bit too short, and actually bringing more attention to the fact that there's a lot of volume on the sides. So if we allowed the top to get just a little bit longer, this is what that would look like. Now, as you can see here, it does do a good job of starting to create a little bit more volume on top and kind of start drawing the attention away from the sides. But if I'm honest, it really doesn't get us where we want to be. It's just kind of the beginning to the process. So with that said, let's dive into suggestion number 2. Okay, now, mistake number 2 was all about the sides being too long and actually being a little bit uneven. So if we actually took those a little bit shorter and evened them up, this is what that would look like. Now, as you can see here, this goes a long way to helping get out of that dog ear effect that Jana was complaining about. But there is something that I want to show you here. While having the top a bit longer will actually give Jana the ability to create more volume on top, I would say pulling the volume out of the sides and using that extra length on top to help balance the shape is great. I would actually keep the top with a little bit less volume and utilize the sides being a little bit shorter to create the volume where we wanted it to, so that it didn't actually overwhelm Jana. Okay, now mistake number 3 was about the back being a little bit too long and too short. It was a little bit too long in the layering and too short in the actual length, which is creating a bit of a shelfy look. Shelfy? Yeah, I'm sure that's a word. Did you get to my point, right? It creates a little bit of a shelf illusion. So if we actually got a little bit more length there and took a little bit more of that bulk or length out to bevel it a little bit more, this is what that would look like. Now, as you can see here, this goes a long way to actually lifting the eye up the back of the shape, accentuating more cheek structure, and actually accentuating a little bit more jaw structure at the same time. And it also goes a long way to creating the illusion that there's less volume in the back and removing that shelfy look. Now, moving on to mistake number 4. Mistake number 4 was all about the styling process and the fact that we probably need to switch up or be a little bit more realistic with our approach to the way we style it so that Jana can get the look that she wants. And she did mention that she likes the idea of it styling back off her face. So if we did actually utilize a little bit more foundational product to get a little bit more control out of it, and we did bring it back off of her face, this is what that would look like. Now, Jana did mention that she likes it back off her face, and I absolutely agree. It does open her up a lot more and really brings the focus more to Jana instead of just to her hair. Okay, and we're gonna stay right here as we dive in. I'm actually a little bit nervous with this. As we dive into the curveballs, let me tell you, like I said before, some of you are gonna wanna scalp me, and some of you are going to love this. So, should we find out? Oh, wow. Okay, now, first of all, let me kind of preface this. I don't know that this is on the table or not. In fact, I think that more than likely it's probably not on the table. And the reason that I think this curveball isn't on the table is because of something Jana said in her email, which we'll talk about in just a second. But there are a couple of things that she did mention in her email that led me towards this direction. One of those things was that she doesn't like the sides to be too long. She likes the hair back off of her face. She doesn't spend a lot of time styling it. And she's going to be transitioning to gray here, even if it is in the next couple of years. So, all of those things led me to this curveball, but there's one massive part of this email that made me think that this would be a terrible idea. And that was, she went short over the ears one time and she felt like it was too short. So, how about this? Okay, I am aware this is aggressive, okay? I get it. But with that said, one, I actually think it looks phenomenal on Jana, but more importantly, this is why I went in this direction. This would be far easier to style simply because there's less hair to dry and it wouldn't require a whole lot of product to create the overall look that she would want to create with this style. More importantly, it definitely opens her face up more, which I really like on her. And then also, if she does decide to move to gray, one, it would be easier to make that transition because it would be a lot shorter, but also it would give her a little bit of edge to that gray. And if you know me, then you know that I love a little bit of yin and yang. Having a haircut that adds a little bit more of a funky edge to the gray really goes a long way to kind of pulling this whole look together. So I think it would look fantastic. Now, with all that said, I also figured, well, I'm already this far off the boat, let's just dive into the ocean completely and see what happens. One of the things I noticed about Jana's photo when I first looked at it was her eyes. She has incredibly striking bright blue eyes. And one thing that I know as a stylist is that if we want to focus eyes or bring attention to eyes like this, we darken the overall color because it really helps them to pop. So, I also thought this would be an option. Weird, it also may not be on the table since we just talked about the fact that she's gonna go gray. So yeah, probably going darker with the color is not the best idea. But all that aside, I do still think it looks great on her and I did want to show it to you and I hope that you don't completely roast me in the comments over it. So now we're at that point. Go ahead, I know I'm on the chopping block here, so go ahead and comment below and let me know what you think. Love it, hate it, all of the things, who knows? But with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and gather things together emotionally and check out this view so I can get ready for him. Yeah, and it doesn't suck. I feel like some of those comments are gonna suck. That's probably true. No, I'm just kidding. They're actually gonna be good. I have faith in you. They're gonna be good. I know they will. All good, right? No.